Okay, it's running. I will maximize this. And as I said, we're looking, this is the one for authentication. Authentication is really easy if you use the built-in system, but there's a lot of steps. And one reason I went here to show that and to go to the blog entry, which I did finally link to this assignment, is that we've really got to do all of these 10 things. And I wanted it up so I don't forget any of the steps. The thing with Django is generally the actual coding isn't hard. It's just that you got to do it in so many different places and remember all the steps. And then when you debug, you have to remember all those steps again and kind of go backwards through them to see where the error is. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to create users and groups in the administration, because if you're going to do authentication, you need somebody to authenticate. All right, come on in. So I'm going to bring up this. I meant to have it open beforehand. One of these days I'll make that change and see what it does. I don't have that at home, but I think it's because I suspect that our version of Visual Studio Code in this virtual is older than any of the ones I have at home. All right, so I know you can do that. So I want to run the admin first, and what we'll do is we'll add a couple of users in a group. Some of you may have already done this, and if you did, you're fine. But I don't think I have on this. Maybe I did. Let's look. Did I add people in a group?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did. Well, we'll look. If there are some there, then I won't worry about it too much. I'll just review it.
Oh, I'm not in any group.
No, I don't mean.
Oh, the group like the project?
No, groups like user groups for the Django.
Oh, okay.
So I am going to do source bin activate, and again, mine. I put mine in the E and V folder. That's why I don't have to go all the way back. Having done this and not done this, I actually see no difference. So I probably wouldn't put them in there in the future. All right, so it's running. So what I want to do is just go back to my tech review project. And then I'm going to Python 3 manage Pi. You should be able to do this part in your sleep. Run server. Okay. And with luck, you won't have any errors and it'll run. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to bring up the admin and we'll look and see if I have any. Admin is linked there, so I'm just going to do that. Okay, so do I have any groups? Yes, I did do a members group. All right, so the way you do that is you just add a group. I named it members. I'm going to add another group. We don't need another group. Members is going to be the main group, but I'll just add another test group. And then you give them permissions. And I'm going to start at product and just do a shift and go down there to the types. Oh, I screwed that up. Product and then shift. And then just click on this. And it gives them the permissions that you want. Now, question? I thought I saw a question. Okay. So these are the permissions that belong to this group, right?
I'm getting the clock.
That's the the clock thing.
Yeah.
So we need to reset the time. I think you need to reset it in the command line. I forget what was the command for that. I think it was something like set time. That was really simple. Yeah, the terminal is there.
I think I do this thing here.
Either terminal works. Anybody remember the set time?
Yeah, it's sudo
Sudo
date
date.
-- set equal and then it's the time.
So sudo,
Sudo date.
skip space and then dash dash. No, date is right. Space, dash dash set.
Equal
And then set the date.
equal
Oh, equal?
then the quotation mark
Where is the equal?
and then the
Okay, look.
quotation mark the time.
Oh, yeah, set equal and then in quotes put the time. I don't think it matters. And the date. It's date first, right? So it'd be 05 or 05.
Yes.
5-20, 21, 2019. And then the date is what, colon?
What's that?
To get to the date, I mean to the time.
First date and then the time. So it's the year, month.
Oh, just a space and then the time. In military time.
So what you're doing here, what you're setting up is just adding all the temporary user.
I just added all the permissions so I didn't give them the ability to add groups or add users or anything else. I just gave them the permissions to add project, change project. I gave them delete, although in real life, I'm not sure I would give them that. And you can always highlight that and return the deletes so that they don't have delete permissions. I didn't give them any permissions on like adding sessions, a lot of these other things. So, and I got rid of the deletes just now. So that's our test group. And then once we've done this, you have to save it. So I have two groups. I have members and test groups. Members has all of the same permissions, but I left the delete in there, and I could take the delete out of these too, but I'm not going to worry about it. The reason we want a group and we want some users is so that we can authenticate, right? If we're going to add the authentication, we want people who could log in and do things. So I'm creating that. It is possible to do all this in code. When I do the extras, I'll try to show you how to do a little bit of that. So you could have a form where a person could register, and when they're registered, they're automatically added to the member group, right? So they would get those permissions. You can do that kind of thing pretty easily. Did you run the server? Can you run your server? So it's not PG admin, it's in your program. So you would just run your server, so just from the. All right, so let's look at group members, and then I'll help you get in there. So I'm going to go to authentication and authorization, and it looks like I did create some users. So Steve is a super user. Staff status means that they're super users. Remember when we created the super user? It means they can do anything. All right, so only me has that. I have Jane Doe and Joe Smith. They are both members of. They belong to members. I could add them to test group if you wanted to. So let's just add Jane. So I'm just going to click on her. And I'm going to add the test group. So she's a member of both. It's irrelevant because she has the same permissions pretty much. Actually, I'm curious, although I'm not going to test it today, which these groups have a slight conflict in permissions. Test group doesn't allow delete, and this one does. In most database contexts, the more restrictive wins. So Jane should not be able to delete even though members allows it. But I don't know if that's how Django handles their permissions. It'd be something to explore, but again, for another day. So she's in 2 different groups. And what I need to do is to save that. Can I save that? Yes, save. Just like any other thing, this isn't really part of the Django, it's just general principles. It's really better to assign permissions to groups and then assign people to groups than it is to assign permissions to people. Right? It's just much easier to maintain. If somebody drops out, you just remove them from the group. Right? So, and if people have different permissions, it's just a nightmare to police that and troubleshoot it and all sorts of things. So in databases and in here and in just in general, it's better to assign permissions to groups and then people to groups rather than permissions to people, although you can. Okay, so we have those things. Again, this is just prep. This is just so we have something to work with. Anybody have questions, or you never got into it, right? So let's go back here. So get into your environment. So CD, yeah, 2 space, 2 dots, space 2 dots. Source, space, ENV01, ENV, not ENV, then get rid of the ENV01 slash bin slash activate. Okay, and there's the yeah, and get into the project. Once you get, well, actually, it's already there. That part you don't need to do. What you need to do is CD, Django files. Space run server. Okay, but we'll fix that. All right, so I'm going to go back to here. Real quickly, I guess I will just go review. So we did this, and then we're going to do some include. We need to include the authorization in the project level URLs. We haven't done anything with it for a while. So if we go to not the URLs in the app, but the URLs in the project, Tech Review project. So down here, I am going to add one more URL. And it'll be an include. Good question is, what am I including? Accounts. This is the line I want to include. I think I did the whole thing. All right, so it's accounts and it's include, and we are including Django contrib auth URLs. So these are pre-built, right? We're using the pre-built authentication. So in Django, there's a folder, there's a file called contrib. Inside of that, a file called auth, and inside of that, URLs or folders, whichever. And inside of that, there's a folder called accounts. So we're basically, we'll get a lot of stuff for free by doing this. We're going to get a login, we're going to get a log out, we're going to get some other things for free. Questions on that one? You need a second. I didn't type it, I pasted it, which is always slightly dangerous because you might get stray characters, but I'm going to save this. And then we'll go do the next parts. Everybody okay? Ready? All right, so I'm going to go down to views. And I'm going to add a couple of views real quickly. I'm not sure this is exactly the order I did it in, but I'm going to temporarily do this. So down at the views, first, we will need, do we have it? We don't have. I think we will need, and again, let me look. I reviewed all this before class. So what I did here is I made a registration thing next. Whoa, which is not what I want to do right now. There's usually a close thing on that. So we'll come back to that. I guess I don't need, I'm going to do these parts next. So I'll do those and then we'll do the other. So what I want, you need to create a method for a login. So I'm going to say def login message, and we'll do request. And then what we want to do is just basically return render request, and then we just need actually, what did I call it here? I need to know. Tech Review app. I have so many versions of this. I forget what I called things. Tech Review app login message. All right, and I think that's all I need there. I don't think there is any, yep, there's no context. And then we need exactly the same thing, but with a log out message. So what happens here is that it needs to have some way to redirect when you log in. It needs to know where to go when you log in. and it needs to know what to do when you log out. So what you do is you create basically a web page for each hello, welcome and goodbye, see you later kind of things. So this will be exactly the same thing. Return, render, request, and then we'll do tech review app. Log out message. .html. And we're going to have to create these in a minute. All right, but these are the views. So not doing things in quite the same order, but we'll get everything done. So two things. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go to the URL and we'll add those. So this is the app URLs. And basically we will add path. How did I log in message? Did I capitalize the message? Consistency would be good. It's something I've never had. Use login message, and then the name, I'm going to call it login message. Okay, and I'm going to do exactly the same with logout message. Every view basically needs to be registered, right? So I'm just changing that to log out, and log out. Assuming that all my capitalization is consistent, that will be. One thing that I occasionally see, make sure you have commas at the end of all of these. They're hard to see when you're debugging and you look at everything, miss that one comma. I've done it too. I've looked over people's shoulders and gone over and over and over again, and it's just a comma. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to Control S. Okay, so I've saved my paths. And I'm going to do just a couple of other little things, and then we'll make the templates and views. This is a little bit weird, but we need to go to the settings file. Remember the settings file where we set the database and all of that? So as I said, I'm not necessarily doing this in the order of the so down at the very bottom of this, where it says static URL equals static, that, by the way, is where you would want to put any flat files. Like if you had your own CSS file, or if you have image files, you would put them in a static folder. You can have folders inside of the static folder, but you put them into this. Tells that anything that is static, that is basically, that isn't dynamically generated, would be in a static folder. We need to tell it where the login and logout message are. So I'm going to do log, I believe it's login URL.
Underscore redirect, underscore URL.
Redirect, yes. Redirect, is that right? UTL. All right. So that equals login message with quotes. This is coming from the name in the other URL, right? And then we need also a logout. Can't type. And I assume it's also redirect. URL equals logout message. The reason these are all caps is that they are built-in constants. So you have to tell it where to go for the login and where the logout. Does that make sense? And this is in the settings file where the database references and things are.
So
Yeah.
the login and log out in all caps is like it's the name you gave it to it, or it's like the Django?
This is built in. These are built into Django.
Okay.
These are built-in constants. They've been predefined for you.
Okay.
But what they haven't done is where to go with those, right? So in the thing that we added, the auth, contrib auth things with there's a whole bunch of classes and a whole bunch of forms that are pre-built for you. That's why I say if you use the built-in authentication, you've got a lot of stuff done for you. If you're going to build your own, you have to build it all by hand, which is a lot of work. And I don't mind the way this one works. Not that this is relevant, but when I used to do the Microsoft one, it would create a local SQL Express database in your website that would store all of your authentication, which was separate from the database itself. Here, remember when we did the migrate, all of the users and permissions and stuff are stored in your own database. I actually prefer that. So I kind of prefer how this does that. So I saved this. All right. So these two URLs, login message and logout, actually go to the same place as other URLs. We're going to have to make another folder in here, but not yet. So I'm just going to do a new file in templates under Tech Review App. So this is just going to be a template, and it's going to be the login message HTML. So my login message, again, it's just like all the other ones here. We inherit from base, extends base HTML. We need a content. So block content. And then an end block. And as you probably know, you can cut and paste from other ones for these, but it's probably more useful here. So this is end block. Okay, so I am just going to do H2, and this is, so we'll say welcome. And then I'm just going to say P, thanks for logging in, which is not all that exciting, but this is our login message. I am going to copy that. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to do logout message .html. I'm just going to paste that in. Would be nice if I'd spelled welcome right. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to say thanks for logging, or thanks for visiting, something like that. And I will save that. And I'm going to go back to login message just to spell welcome right. All right, so we've got our login and our logout message, but we don't actually have our login form, and we don't we need to add a login and logout to the menu. Then we're done. I mean, this is not hard. There's a lot of tiny steps, but it's not hard, right? Questions so far? So this is the step that I had you do in the blog right after. So under the templates, I'm going to add a new folder. And I'm going to call it registration. That is what it's called, right? It's under the app, under the templates. It's on the same level as the Tech Review app under this. So registration is the folder. I'm just going to make sure of that. Is that the wrong one? No, that's way up there. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that my memory, which I don't trust anymore. So registration is the folder that the authentication packages expect. Right, so this is where they expect their login form to go. You can also, although I didn't put them in there, so there are built-in, the login form is going to be really easy. There are built-in, pre-built forms for login. There's also pre-built for change your password, pre-built for reset, things like that. But we're only going to put in the login. So in here, I'm going to add a new file. And it will be login. And it's important that it be named login because that's what it expects. I'm going to real quickly look at my login one just to make sure. So everything's the same except, actually everything's pretty much the same. I'm tempted to copy that, but I'll type it. You can copy it if you want, because it's essentially the same. It's basically, actually, did it inherit from base? I don't think it. This is the one for. This one goes under registration, and it goes under. So registration login HTML. Registration is the folder. Login HTML is the file in that folder. Again, the hard part is just knowing where everything goes. So we'll do content. Okay, and then I'll do an end block. Okay, and then inside we'll just do, we'll do an HT for login. And I will start a form. So method equals post. Brain fart. Yep, method equals post. So inside the form, I'm going to do that token thing. Which is, again, memory. CRSF token. I'm going to copy that.
What is CSF?
So I'm not sure what the letters stand for, but it's supposedly what it is it's a check for authenticity, that it actually belongs to the site and everything. It's supposedly a security check. It'll work fine without it, but supposedly it's safer to use it. And that's vague because I'm not sure of all the details of that. So they always say when you have an open form to add this, and I think what it's doing is some kind of, sending a number or checksum back and forth. So I'm going to paste. And then it was, and this curly braces, no, just content. So form, and it was dot as P, is that right? Why can't I remember something more than that's correct? Actually, while I'm there, let's just copy the button. This means do it as a paragraph, right? Before we did it as table. So there's several different forms when you're using the class form like we are doing it. You could do it as table, you could do it as P, which is as paragraph. You can also do it as list, where thinking of list not in the Python sense, but in the HTML sense. Yeah. So you can do the form, you have those choices. I'm doing form as P because that's what everybody did for the login form, and it looks fine. So, and I didn't apply like any of the CSS from Bootstrap, but it seems to have some of it applied in the forms, from underneath. So I'm going to save this. Questions on this? I copied and pasted a lot, but it's basically like our other forms, right? We just give it a post method, the token, which is optional, but is good to have. We tell what kind of form we want it to spin out. And the submit button. It's really important that the submit button be between the forms. A lot of people, when you do form up here, it ends form right there. If you put all of this down here and have your end form up there, nothing will happen. Your form will be dead. It won't react to anything because the button isn't inside the form. Right, so you just need to make sure that closed form is at the end of everything. So we've really only got one more thing to do, which is to add the links to base. Yeah.
Where's the ASP coming from?
The what?
ASP.
As underscore P?
Yeah.
It's built into the form class. We could have done that when we did form as table, right? So this is just form as paragraph, okay, as a P tag. Again, with Python, it's all pre-built. It's good and it's bad. Okay, so I'm going to go to base HTML. And I'm going to add some URLs for logging in. Actually, there is one other thing I want to do. So I'm going to do just login. Now, again, the URLs that we're using, we didn't do. So the login is a name in the auth, contrib auth ones. So I'm just going to say login. And logout is exactly the same. We didn't do anything for logout, but it will work. Whoa. I just was trying to copy that and I overwrote it.
Yeah, you just hold your shift and alt key and do the down arrow and copy.
Not log in, out. Log out and log out. Now there's one other thing, because we can log in and log out now, but it doesn't have any consequences because there's nothing on the site that eliminates that you have to be logged in to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so you have to log in to be able to fill out the forms. We have 2 forms, like in the product and review. So this is the last thing. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go to views again. And at the very top, I need to add another reference. And I need to look at it because I don't remember.
You got an extra tick mark in it also.
Do I? Okay. Where?
Right at the end there, required.
Oh, right. I don't know why that would be there. Whoa, that's not what I need. So what we need to do is we need to, from contrib auth, there's a thing called decorators, and we want to import the login required decorator. Decorators are real weird little things. They're kind of like, well, if it was C#, I would call them compiler directives. They give you a hint. So instead of having to write a whole bunch of logic about saying that you can only look at the form if you're logged in, I can, once I've done this, go down to my form, so new product, and I can do at login required. And that will make it required. Right? That's really simple, and I'm going to do the same here. So now it will require a login to fill out the forms. Again, it's that simple. You could do, if you had to do it in code, you'd have to do a lot more. You'd have to go check the request, make sure that there is a user logged in, check the users. Actually, we're just asked that they be logged in. We're not necessarily, although I do think if you had a user without permissions, I still couldn't do the form. So I'm going to save those, and we're going to try this. So I think I've done everything. I think I've gotten all the pieces. And I'll do one more walkthrough of everything we did after we try it. Yeah. The what? The login to authentic? That part? And again, I just cut and pasted it, although it did have an extra tick, as it said. I sometimes wonder if they get added in the, because I run them through a code beautification thing. It's also possible I typed it in. Okay, my server is still running. Everything is saved. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to go, I'm just looking to see if it's up there. It's not. So let's do one. I'm going to do tech review app. So notice we have log in and log out. We are logged in, by the way. This confused me initially. Because we're logged into the admin, we are logged in here too. So interestingly, if I log out here, notice it went to my page. Thanks for visiting. Also, if I go back to admin, so and refresh, I'm back to the login here too because I've logged out of both of them. So let's log in now. Well, actually, before I log in, let me look at add products. Oh, it went. I logged out. I shouldn't be able to see that. Shouldn't be able to see those. I might have to look at that and see if I did something. Was it Jane, the username Jane on that? We had Jane Doe. There was her name, but I don't remember what the username was. No, don't save it. So it did say welcome. And then I should be able to see these, but why, when I log out, why is it not doing that? Let's look at that again. Login required. Oh, we don't want to do that. None of that is significant. I just wanted a space. Let's look at this, see if I forgot anything. So at login required. Did I save that? Looks like it's saved. I'm going to quit the server and relog and restart it. Let's see if that makes any difference. See, now it threw me to log in. And I think if I go to the it just goes to login. See how it won't let me go now? I had to restart the server to get it. But it's there now. And now if I log in, I'm already at login. The forms throw you to the login, right? If you're not logged in. So if I do Jane and password 1. No, I don't want this. So it says welcome for logging in. Now I can see products. Now I can see review. If I log out again, it throws me to login. So I had to restart it for that to work, but it is working now.
Mine's not finding like very restrictions. What happened to log in?
Oh,
Someone does not exist. It says,
did you so add accounts login? Did you put it the login template in the registration login? That looks good. Yeah. And then let's look at the URL. Yeah, first one. So include Django control off URL. That actually looks good. I think we just included the I'm going to walk through it one more time, but are there other questions? How many of it worked?
Mine, I log out and then go to add products that prompts me to log in. Like when I'm logged out, I go to view.
So you put that to that.
So it's triggered the permission.
And did you restart after? And the permission is there?
I don't think I did that.
Oh, okay.
That yet.
Yeah. Other questions? Yeah.
When I hit log out, it takes me to the admin page. Yeah, so I can go here.
That's the result. Where did you put the And that's the message you put there, right?
Yeah, it is.
So that was the. What did you use?
Getting worse, I don't know why. No, I just.
And I'm still, even when I'm logged out, I can. Add products. Yeah. And I put the login required. Oh, yeah, let me try that.
What did we do last class? We added forms, right? Okay, so just real quickly, I'll review all the steps that we did, and then I'll call it good and give you time to work. So, let's see if I can remember all the stuff we did. I think I started, where did I start? I added, oh, the URLs, I think. And then I added the link to include the contrib auth. Basically, this is just so that it can find those authorization forms that are pre-built for you. If you don't include this, then you would have to build everything, right? Because you aren't getting access to those pre-built libraries. So that's the first thing we did, I think. I think I went down to views next. And we added a couple of views. They're pretty trivial views. They're just give you a message for logging in and a message for logging out. Okay. And then I added those to the URLs because you always need that login message, log out message. Okay, I think the next thing I did was to go to settings. I'm not sure if I did it in this order, but at the very end you need to do out settings, you need to add these constants to tell it where to go for login and log out messages. So again, these are part of the just general settings file. There are other things you can add to settings. We won't right now, but there are other things you can add. So we did the view, we did the settings. So then I just made the logout message and the login method. That's the login, logout message. These are just in the regular Tech Review app subfolder of templates. Then we added the registration subfolder in templates, and we added the login, which is just basically looks like all the other forms that we did. That part you missed. So it looks just like those forms. And the very last thing we did was to add links to the login and logout in the base URL. Did it work when you restarted? Yeah. Okay. So a lot of steps, but no one step is very hard, right? So I will put all this on GitHub. Questions? Okay, let me stop the video. I will post the video and post the code, and then I'll come help. And probably Thursday will be open lab again. We've got like 3 weeks left. The last thing is not going to take very long. It's just to do a couple of forms. I did do, this is not part of the assignment, but just to show you in the blog, if you want to do this, I did do some authenticate test cases for authentication that you can put in test. This basically, notice there's a setup where we create a user and a product and a product form. Actually, we just create the product, I think. And then we test the login and the see if the login uses the test thing, and then see if it gets redirected if it's not logged in. So there are some tests there that you can add if you want, but they're not part of the assignment. Okay. So let me. I will stop the